Alright guys, so here we are in game. I'm just gonna show you the wins I've been getting with the deck before we head into a replay. So this was 7 games here and I won all 7. This is 6 out of 10, so that's 13-4 so far. Yeah, getting a little bit tilted here. It was late at night and I went like, I think these 3 games I didn't get a Lurking Fear till turn 6, so I was like super tilted by the time I placed TM and a Riv. And here's another 7-10, so that would make 27. My math serves. So strong deck, and it feels really good to play. Hopefully, yeah, this is the first game I'm going to show you guys. It's not representative, but it really shows the game plan of the deck in action, I think. And what happens when the opponent has a bad start and how we're able to capitalize super quickly. So looking at that starting hand there, we have a Lurking Fear and we had a Nightmare Operant. The Necromancer was a little too slow, and the Right of the Undervault way too slow. We want to get those draw cards later, but early on we want to just be tempoing out, especially against Starhorn, who's going to draw cards for us. And I will typically hang on to Fury Chakram, just because it can be such a pivotal card, and it really does win games, so I'll typically hold on to that if I'm able to. And this is looking like a really fantastic start. He goes for turn 1 Entropic Gaze, which a little questionable because it does fuel our hand. But, that was his play. So we can put him down either to some kind of Wizard Starhorn, which is the more popular deck that runs Entropic Gaze, or some old school Burn Starhorn. Alright, so there we go. We get our 4th Lurking Fear, which is absolutely insane. So we're just going to go ahead and play 3 Lurking Fears on turn 1, casually. So we're really looking for some Dying Wish minions to ramp into now, and luckily we pick up the Duelyst. The hard part here is going to be getting the Carrion Collectors to die if he backs off. But, we have the Whip to answer his on-curve Lava Slasher or whatever. I can imagine replacing the Whip next turn, actually, just because that's a little way off. Vast Brutality. Gonna stun our guy. But we're not too worried. We have Lurking Fear and Duelyst, so we're going to be able to play 4 Lurking Fears. And because we're running Right at the Undervault, we don't have to be too scared of going lower cards in hand. There is a ton of draw in the deck. So we can absolutely just dump our hand. That's what we want to be doing. And then we see we pick up the Right. So we have the chance of either going Chakram or Right next turn, depending how many of these Lurking Fears we get to die. And here I'm just walking into position to take the mana tile. Second Right, not what we want, but it gives us something to replace. And that Duelyst is already putting on a bunch of pressure. He can't stand and kill it without our Lurking Fears going off. And yeah. The Magma basically has no way to interact with, like, no Dispel to dispel our Lurking Fears. So we're feeling pretty safe here. Upper hand on the Duelyst. We're not too fussed if that dies. And here you see we actually have the opportunity to go for a Right and have an extra mana left over. So let's replace one of the Rights and see what we get. And perfect, a 0 mana minion. So you always want to just dump out as much as your hand as you can before playing Right, and that absolutely looks like it's going to be the turn here. We're even able to use our Bloodborne spell to trigger our Carrion Collector dying. Ends up putting that slightly backwards. And I almost play one of the 1 mana minions, and then I realize I can Bloodborne spell a Carrion Collector and play both. Little tricks you have to be aware of. So we're going to be able to block him in. He'll have to punch a Void Hunter in order to play any minions. That said, it's looking like he's a Wizard Starhorn, so he probably won't be wanting to anyway. Just have a fairly nice rebuke here, but look at our hand, right? If he rebukes us, we don't care. We just play all of those minions. So yeah, pretty scary board and an even more scary hand. You're basically seeing what happens when the deck gets good draws and is allowed to just do its thing. If the opponent tries to play a removal-based game plan, you see just how much draw power and onboard power there is just to take him out. So we have 2 removal cards, and he's going to punch off the 4/4. But I mean, look at our follow-up. I'm probably deciding whether I want to play the flying minion in the front or in the back. Something you definitely have to think about, because if he does rebuke and then we pull one of his minions, then we want it to be closer. And I'm actually able to play the Fury Chakram as well, which I imagine is what I'll go for here. Just casually playing 5 mana artifact and 3 4-drops and a 5-drop on 6 mana. Play the Reaper back there to stop him running from our Void Hunter, of course. And now at this point, even if he does something like Flash EMP, he's still going to be dead. So he just goes ahead and concedes. So that's what the deck does. Let's try and find a more representative game now. So, yep, turn 1 Lurking Fear. Like I say, you're fairly likely to pull it. And we get the second one, which is lovely. So we're going to be able to do Lurking Fear into 3-drop, or into 4-drop rather. And we replace into the Duelyst, which is the absolutely best card to play here. He missed his turn 1, and we are really, really pushing the advantage already. One important thing I should say about playing your Carrion Collectors is you always want to play them next to one of your opponent's minions. If your opponent is able to kind of back off and strand them, that can be really punishing because it delays your acceleration. And also, I did replace the 2-drop back then because we didn't have too much draw in hand, and playing a 3/2 for 0 without draw in hand isn't fantastic. So yeah, we're going to want to instead just be playing bigger 3 and 4 drops. Of course, this is only because we got the double Lurking Fear start. And he's in a bit of a pickle already. Homeostatic Rebuke, good answer to the Duelyst. But now, look at our follow-up. Okay, so we get probably the worst Tombstone spawn we could have done, but no fear. And I'm actually just going to ignore the mana tiles now and surround him, apply the maximum pressure we can. If these minions die, for the most part, they draw us cards. So if he plays the second Rebuke, we're pretty fine. So yeah, just dumping our hand, but the minions we dump draw cards. So it's absolutely fine. And already he's facing a lot of damage if we have Chakram. So he can't really afford to ignore this or play a slower turn. Okay, so we're to spell onto our draw minion. A good idea from him, but we do have the second one to follow up. And this is going to probably be one of the situations. Alright, so we'll draw our card first. Can't expect to get too much more value out of the Void Hunter without a Azurhorn Shaman. So this is going to be one of the instances where we want to Bloodborne spell the Necromata immediately to get the draw. I'm thinking about the best way to play around Macantor here. So by we corner block the Tombstone to prevent him from Macantoring the Tombstone and getting value that way. And we prevent him from hitting our face and our minions. The best we can do. Sadly, there's no way to completely prevent him from Macantoring the 4/4 and the 4/5, but because he's provoked, you can't even clear the 4/5. Looking pretty good. And again, one of the main things you have to worry about with the deck is making sure your health total doesn't drop too low. Because between the Cell Souls and the Bloodborne spell, you can inflict a lot of self-damage. And there's not really any healing in the deck outside of your Desolators, which don't do too much. So you really do want to be careful. I'll frequently back off quite early and allow my minions to keep applying pressure. But of course, in this situation, we're not under any life total threat at all, so I'm perfectly fine blocking him in and using my general aggressively. The reason I didn't play any of my 0 drops on that last turn was because I have Azurhorn Shaman and my Bloodborne spell to follow up with this turn, so I can play all 3 0 drops and Bloodborne spell, and that'll make a 4/8 and 2 3/6s. And we do also have the Desolator, goes from a 2/1 to a 2/5, which is non-negligible. I'm actually going to replace one of the 0 drops because I know whatever else I draw, I will be able to play this turn, because all of my minions cost 2 or less at this point. So we're looking for something a little more impactful, and Reaper of the Nine Moons is exactly that card. And now it just becomes a question of how we want to position. We want to be playing around Macantor, which can be difficult. And yeah, I don't have any tips here other than think through your positioning. You want to be seeing where your minions are before you play them to make sure you're playing around Macantor. It's very easy to accidentally play into it. And I think with the line I go for here, I prevent myself from I was going to play the Azurhorn Shaman right in front of the Reaper, but I realized then I have nowhere to play my 3/2, so I actually am forced to move up here. And playing a little bit into like Macantor Fortitude, but of course everything has such high health that it's pretty Macantor proof anyway. So yeah, needlessly playing into Macantor Fortitude here a little bit. That said, he would be dead on board, so we can pretend we thought of that first. And of course, the Azurhorn Shaman buff makes everything immune to rebuke, and just the fact that our minions are naturally high attack means our Plasma Storm isn't going to trouble us too much, so there's really not much you can do here. EMP is, of course, his best answer, and the deck does struggle somewhat with EMP. So now suddenly we don't have any draw. Our Desolator's dead. And we're in a little bit of trouble here. That said, we are applying quite a lot of pressure to his life total here. I figure now Rebuke is a serious problem, so I want to cash in the damage early Thinking about finality, although we should be able to apply enough pressure on board so that if he finalities, he is dead. Or I think we would be 2 damage off in that case. So I do move the tombstone backwards just because I want to maybe pick up a mana tile, maybe that'll be useful. But more importantly, I don't want to give him a 0 attack target from a Canto. So yeah, just going to pressure his life total here. If he does anything except play Earth Sphere of Finality, he should be dead. And I don't actually trade into the EMP. I leave it up just because he can only clear 1 minion with it here. And here, and this way I keep 2 threats on board, which when he's down to 2 HP, both of these threats are very, very meaningful. So I think he does play Finality if I remember correctly. Alright. So in my calculations, I managed to forget about the general stun, and he is in fact not dead on board. He survives with 2 life. Reaper of the Nine Moons, fantastic top deck. Obviously, a Right or any other draw would have been better, but by no means are we sad to see Reaper. And yep, we have a pretty easy trade into the EMP, and I am going to push the damage here, just because putting him on 4 is very, very scary for him. And we don't want the minion to get cleaned up by a Macantor or a Rebuke or something. Magma has a lot of those AoE effects that could accidentally clean up a stray minion, so we are going to trade in. Oh. And thinking again about whether to position the Reaper close or far. And I think close is going to be the best option here. Because again, we want to think about single target removal, like Rebuke, even Upper Hand is seeing play now, probably not in Vath, but any kind of removal, we want his minion to be relevant. And we do top deck into Right of the Undervault, so even if he clears the board and heals, we should be able to Right potentially into a Desolator for lethal. Otherwise, we'll just be able to develop a large board. I don't think there's too much he can do to kill us. So, again, the EMP was a little scary, but I think we were able to develop so much early pressure that, you know, able to close out the game fairly confidently. And yeah, he's just going to give us a Lava Slasher here and say, well played. Alright, hello again everyone. I was going to leave it there, but then looking back I realized that second game wasn't really that representative either. It was a Vath who missed his turn 1 and otherwise just played removal. So pretty much the same as the first game, and I wanted to give you guys a little bit of insight into how the deck, you know, usually runs when it doesn't get nut starts and when the opponent plays a more normal game plan. So I did look through, and there was one game in particular I was thinking of, and I managed to find it. So up against Ziran, show you how we deal with a little bit more aggro. So yeah, you guys get a bonus game, and that is absolutely not the starting hand we're looking for. You know, never really want any Desolators, it's way too early for a Reaper of the Nine Moons, and definitely way too early for Right of the Undervault, so if I could I would mulligan the whole hand. Just deciding which Desolator to replace, and we get a 2-drop, which is, you know, the most we could ask for, and a 3-drop to follow it up, so not a great start, but at least we're playing things. And we do find a Karen Collector. So we're not completely just relying on our minion quality to win, we are going to get a little bit of ramp, but nowhere near as fast as we'd like. Okay, and a lowly healing mystic to start. So that is going to let us go Carrion Collector into Cell Soul. And Desolator again, we never want to be playing these early. Positioning here, as usual, we want the Carrion Collector to be right in front. We never want to give them the opportunity to back off and deny us the ramp. So Carrion Collector on the mana tile, and then we're going to play Cell Soul out of reach of being hit by everything, but the closest we can. So here it's still covering the mana tile. And, you know, we're ahead on board, which is where we want to be, but not too far ahead. It'll depend on his follow-up play here. We get our 4th Desolator drawn this game. You know, it happens. And yeah, nothing we could do about him killing that without playing our Cell Soul in range, which I think we value the Cell Soul a bit more. If we had an Azahorn Shaman, I probably would have protected the 3-2. Just because, obviously, any minions on board is good when you're playing Azahorn Shaman on your Bloodborne spell turn. And we see the Martyrdom coming through. So, nice little interaction there. We end up taking 4 damage anyway. But what you gonna do? Okay, so we did manage to get 1 ramp. And we're gonna be able to clean up the board. And we get the Fura Chakram. So this is the prime opportunity to develop a Reaper of the Nine Moons. You know, not the normal game plan, which is playing a bunch of lower cost minions, but when you don't have the luxury of doing that, you don't have any Azahorn Shamans, just playing on-curve Reaper on 4 mana is nothing to scoff at, especially with Fura Chakram to follow up. He's going to actually play around the Chakram by simply not playing any minions, which is perfectly valid. Definitely a hard replace here. You can see you don't want to be too scared replacing the removal. Everything else is definitely doing something for our hand, and be a potential play this turn. But yeah, the Whip relies on him playing a minion that we need to kill that we can't kill just by flying the Reaper over with Fura Chakram, so not likely to see use in the next couple turns. So replacing the removal, always a ballsy idea. And we are going to trade in just to get the charge off the artifact right away. Sunriser is nice because it's not in his deck anymore, I suppose. And at this point we're going to actually back off of his general, because our health is definitely getting very low, and if we want to be able to keep playing Cell Souls and using our Bloodborne spell, we need to buy ourselves some space and quickly. Luckily he is forced to kill his Sunriser here and take another charge off his artifact, just because it is going to stop him going through any heal combos, and he has to be aware of stuff like Desolator that we could be running to take advantage of it. So a nice pull there. And his artifact is slowly getting beaten down. So we're in a decent spot overall. Still only 1 tick of ramp, so we could be doing a lot better. Martyrdom actually going to heal us for 5 this turn. So again, not too bad. And we absolutely do have to kill the Summon Forge Lancer. It's just whether we value pushing the damage more or developing a board here. And I'm not sure I quite remember what I went for. So we get the 1-drop, which means we can play Chakram and also play our Nightmare Operant, which is definitely a fine play. We'll have a we'll have a Frenzy Reaper, and we'll also have a Nightmare Operant. So the positioning here, I'm playing around Holimo, I'm playing around Hyperion's Claim. At the same time, we want to keep the Names, we want to keep the Nightmare Operant up closer to his face, make sure it's still relevant, we don't want to back off completely. And definitely backing out of reach of his general and choosing to play around Sunstrike as well. So yeah, we see the second Lurking Fear, which is good because we can Lurking Fear Necromata Bloodborne spell and then potentially play whatever minions we get off of the Necromata. Tempest is a pretty crucial card for him to have there. And Trinity Oath, you know, it happens, but it means he is missing his turn, and this gives us free reign to develop, which is right where we want to be. Interestingly, he's going to choose to back off here instead of trying to apply pressure to our face. He probably is worried about Chakram and, you know, thinks we're probably on the more aggressive game plan, whereas in reality this deck is probably the one with the strongest late game in the whole format, which you guys will get to see this game. So we're just going to go for the play I talked about. Not being scared of using our Bloodborne spell and breaking a charge off the Chakram. We can always draw another one, and this is definitely an important play to make. And we get the Azurhorn Shaman for next turn with a Bloodborne spell on the second Necromata. Now, again, we have the luxury here of playing around cards, so I'm going to choose to 1, push face damage, but 2, play around Holy Immolation. I'm not sure why I'm confused. I think he made an emote, which we didn't see. Oh. Oh, no. I remember. So there was a visual bug, and my Herald still had 1 attack, and it counted as only doing 1 damage. So that's interesting. I wonder how this is going to play out. So yeah, visually I saw the Herald had 1 attack, and he was still on 12 health at this point. Okay, so Rite of the Undervault and Azurhorn Shaman in hand. This is looking like it's going to be fantastic. He's just getting some heal procs here while he can. Gonna give us more cards, but nothing to worry about. We can just play them out immediately before we play Rite. And it looks like we're going to have 1 extra mana to work with. So we'll be able to play the Bloodborne spell on the Shaman and immediately buff all of these cards that we're going to play. This is the huge late game I'm talking about. So as long as we don't die the following turn, we should have no trouble winning this game with our huge board. Of course, Appearance Claim, always something you've got to think about too. But, you know, we just got to hope he doesn't have that one. He's giving us the shades, alright. And we're putting the Cell Soul up there to prevent him from backing off of all of our minions. It's totally okay that it wouldn't get the buff. And there you see we pull our Mechazor, which is hilarious, but we also pull a Carrion Collector. So I actually prioritize going for the Carrion Collector Bloodborne spell here over the Azurhorn Shaman one, because that's going to let us play out all 3 of these Void Hunters instead of none of them. And, you know, our hand looks absolutely unstoppable. Even if he answers all that, we'll draw 3 cards. And the second Rite, and, you know, you're Zoran. You don't have Appearance Claim, how do you come back from this, right? Tempest definitely be a start. But then, you know, looking at my hand, I can do it all again next turn with the Mechazor. So this is kind of that huge late game that we're talking about with the deck. Alright. So Sunriser is one of the cards we're not scared of, and it's going to be hard for him to clear this whole board. And he's dead on board. Yep, so there we have it, guys. I think this is, in my opinion, the best way to build Maehv, or Dying Wish Maehv at least, barring maybe the Trial Maehv variants. I'm not sure how strong they are yet, but this is definitely the best Dying Wish build in my opinion. Pretty tight list. It's got the nice Solifid 13 times 3 ofs, which I'm a big fan of, and definitely has a lot of very explosive plays and can apply a lot of pressure. Alright, I am trying to keep these videos a little shorter, so let me know what you guys think. Let me know what you think of the deck, what you think of the format. Don't forget to leave a like, and if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. We're going to try and keep this Duelyst content flowing. And of course, tell me what you think. Drop a comment, swing by Discord, and let me know on Reddit as well. And try out the deck yourself. It's only 10,000 spirit, haha. Alright. Alpha Century, see you guys later.